Hello, everyone. I am very pleased to have two very special guests with us today. We have Stacy Kornelson and Rachel Hoops from Koch. Stacy is an assistant controller at Koch Capabilities, and she's in financial reporting. She's a KU grad, and she actually got her MBA right here at WSU just recently. Welcome, Stacy.
Thank you for having us. We're excited to be here today.
We also have Rachel Hoops with us. She's an assistant controller of Koch and controller of Koch Capabilities. She is an Emporia State grad, and she's had all kinds of roles across Koch. Rachel, welcome.
Excited to be here. Thanks, Jason, for having us, and looking forward to sharing some information with the students.
So what we're going to do is we're going to start talking about what are the things that the accounting profession needs to know. What are the soft skills that really we need to be thinking about as accountants? You know, this profession has been a certain way for a long time. We have really evolved into something more than just accountants. And what we want to know really as professionals and as students that are entering the profession, we want to start to understand more than just knowing the things and what could we remember from our classes. What are some of the key soft skills, right? Some of the things that you look for in good accounting candidates and good finance candidates and good economics candidates. So if you guys could speak to some of those key principles, that would be great.
Yeah, and I can get us started. I think one of the key soft skills, probably in many different professions, is communication. So here at Koch, if we're able to be clear and concise and communicate, that is very critical in how we're able to show up and how we're able to partner. We, as accounting and finance professionals, must be able to translate really complex topics and do so in a way that it becomes very clear for others to understand and digest. I think one thing that it's easy to do is kind of sit behind your pings or sit behind your emails, but we really need to be able to engage in real conversations and tailor your messaging to your audience, tailor your mode of communication to your audience, and don't shy away from picking up the phone or stopping by and talking in person. I think that those communication skills will really set you up to be successful in the future, and that is just a foundational skill that we have to be able to show up to the table as a partner.
I completely agree. And I think this is one of the things, right? In a world where technology is changing so much, we do often see people, it doesn't matter if they're sitting, a few desks away from someone, they still default to, well, I'll just send a really quick Teams message, or I'll send an email, and it'll be quick and easy. And they miss those interactions. They miss the dialogue. They miss, more questions that can come up. And so really just building that ability to know how you can quickly move through communications. And again, knowing that audience and the best method of communication is really important.
That's very good. And I know, Stacy, you and I have talked about this notion of storytelling, right? We've got the numbers in front of us and we can see the variances and things that don't make sense. But then how do we tell that story? Can you tell me how you guys think about that?
Absolutely. To your point, Jason, we have to be able to know our numbers and be able to understand and digest our financial statements, but to really be able to show up and tell the story. What does it mean? Where are our risks? And be able to translate that to audiences that maybe aren't accountants on a day-to-day basis is so critical. And I think that helps us get away from just being able to transact and to put financial statements together and really show up as a strategic partner. And how can we help influence and be a part of those strategic conversations about the future?
Yeah, I would add too, when you have that ability, right, to be able to tell the story, you really can come to the table with a point of view, right? And being able to explain it to someone in a way that they understand, not just the numbers, not just where it sits on the financial statements, but what does it mean to the team or to the business, right, that you work with, and really then be able to bring a point of view of okay, where do we go from here? What's the next step? And really, why is that? So it just goes from presenting information to helping influence where you're going.
Indeed, and I like that we talk about this concept of a seat at the table. We know that our accounting things and our finance things are very important, but why would this be important to our organization and how does it add value to the conversation? That's really a great way to think about what we know and what we've learned in our coursework during college. And so I want to shift over and talk a little bit about change. What are your thoughts on embracing change?
I can maybe start this one. We talk a lot here at Koch about how change is constant. And, this really creates opportunities for us. So those that embrace that change and really see it as an opportunity, not as a threat, are really the ones that are going to thrive. And we see those changes in a lot of different ways. It can be changing accounting guidance, which is maybe, much more typical and expected for those of us in accounting. But think about the number of technology changes that we're facing every day. There's a lot of global events, right, that can drive change to how we need to operate and how we need to perform our roles. So being adaptable to that, right, ongoing business change in a variety of different ways, and looking at that as a positive and looking at that as an opportunity for how you can embrace that, how you can be part of moving the business forward and really transforming where we go really sets individuals apart.
I absolutely echo that. I think that change will happen and continue to happen. And I think it's very fast paced. So our ability to be positive and embrace that and solve going forward is absolutely critical.
Okay, good stuff. We talk quite a bit at Wichita State about entrepreneurs, and we think about entrepreneurship in a certain way. We're very daring, we're starting businesses and things like that. But I've heard you say before that you look for entrepreneurs to operate within Coke. Tell me about that.
Yes, we are always looking for those who can be principled entrepreneurs. And how I think about that is really owning your responsibilities within Coke and within your role. And what that can mean is, hey, you own this and you have the ability to be as effective and efficient and do things differently as long as we're reaching that end goal and those deliverables or whatever it may be that our leaders need. So what that means is we come in, we want to ask questions, we want to roll our sleeves up and dig in. We want to act before we're being asked to act, right? We want to seek out knowledge of others and really feel like you own that space and that you're accountable to that space. Rachel, how do you think about it?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think one of my favorite things I've heard recently actually came from a leader on my team, and we were talking about the evolution of people moving through roles, right? When you start in an accounting position, or maybe even just a new role after several years, um, there had started to be this mantra that, well, I'll learn the role and I'll do the role, and then I'll move on to the next thing. And he really was having to challenge his team to think differently. And so his question that he started asking them was, okay, but what have you done to make the role better? What have you done to create value? It's great that you learned the role. It's great that you learned how to, book the entries that you needed to book or put together the financial statements. But how have you made it either better, more efficient? You've gained yourself some capacity, or you've been able to influence and drive additional value for the company. And so I think that's a great example of what we're really looking for people to do, is not just come in every day and do what we tell them to do, or do a set of steps that we've designed in a role. Yes, there's critical things that have to get done in certain situations, but how do they make that their own? And that the individuals that can come in and do that really are the ones that find themselves more motivated, find themselves being rewarded to be able to truly contribute and make a difference.
And this would be, for everybody, right? This is new hires. I've heard you say interns can do this, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is hard, right? Especially when people are new in their career. This might be a good time to emphasize too, courage is something that we talk about, and that can be uncomfortable. But we're really looking for everyone to come in and ask those questions and be willing to look for opportunities to drive change. It doesn't matter if you are spending a few weeks with us in the summer. You're doing a co-op maybe, right, throughout the school year for a few hours a week, or you've been here for 20 years, right? None of us are exempt from that expectation of really challenging what today looks like and how we're going to get to the future.
I had a leader that emphasized, hey, if you are invited to a meeting, you're there for a reason. So make sure your voice is being heard. And that could be through asking questions or helping explain areas that maybe aren't emphasized. But we have to make sure that we're using those opportunities, that we are being courageous in those opportunities and making sure that we get to continue to have that seat at the table and we continue to be invited to meetings.
So we've covered a few of these soft skill type things that we want to be thinking about as we enter our accounting careers. Let's shift over and talk about technical skills because we do still need to know how to do a few things to set ourselves apart. How do we think about the skills that we want to carry into our roles as we get started?
One thing Rachel and I talked about was absolutely being able to have that technology mindset, that transformation mindset. Excel is still a foundational tool today in how we operate and what we do as accounting finance professionals, but we are continuously having the opportunity to embrace new technology, whether it's true transactional systems or AI systems that even help us just in our day-to-day work. We are going to continue to face new technology and new systems, and having that skill set to adapt and to explore and to learn those systems and apply them in your day-to-day work is something that will continue to add just a great amount of value and set you up to be successful.
This is one of the things that I think newer professionals coming in really do bring an advantage and a new way of thinking about things and a more integrated way that they apply technology. We here have kind of had to talk a little bit about AI is not coming. It's not something that we're looking forward to and preparing for. It's here. And for those of us that have been in the profession for 15, 20 years, it's a shift for us. And what I see with new professionals coming in, right, this is becoming a more integrated part of their day to day. I'm still over here having to remind myself that, the chat functionality is out there and Copilot is out there and making sure that I use it every day. And I'd venture to guess that a lot of the new professionals coming in, college students today, it's probably just natural for them. And so they have a big opportunity to really come in and help challenge us and help us find new ways, and help the rest of us learn how to adapt to the technology that's there, and just bring that into, a profession that has used Excel for a lot of years, and all these tools that we may not need as much going into the future. I'd say one of the things we have to work on, right, is the enablement, right? Getting people access to the tools, encouraging them to use them for productivity in their day-to-day, experimenting with it. But we do have the added lens from a business perspective of knowing what information you're putting out there and how others might be able to access it. So there's certainly some learning curves along the way as we open up more and more technology in a business setting like this and making sure that we're enabling it in the right way.
Sometimes we can have some apprehension when we approach AI, right? It could be maybe that, certain university classes don't allow it and things like that. And we've just gotten this kind of bad rap. But really, we were trying to break that down a little bit in more and more of our coursework so that we don't have that barrier to using it because it is so valuable in our day-to-day business.
Exactly, Jason. So, and to your point, this may help lead us into really understanding that foundational skill set of knowledge in accounting and finance too, because to your point, we're able to leverage tools that we have today in AI and other technology that we didn't have before, but we still have to understand the basics of accounting and be able to then use that in the time that we're going to spend in critical thinking and storytelling. And if we don't have that strong foundational skill set of accounting or how to use technology to make sure that we can get to those answers, we're not going to be effective partners and we're not going to get that phone call to be a seat at the table. So I do think that is a fine balance that we'll continue to navigate in utilizing technology technology and helping us get to answers quicker or help us do some of the work that we used to have to touch and do ourselves, and use that time to be the storytellers, to think critically, to help be strategic and solve problems. But we have to have a good foundation to be able to do that.
I'm really excited, Jason, to hear you say that the university is thinking through that and how to navigate it. I've had lots of conversation with my kids on this, actually, right, as they've navigated school at all levels. I have a middle schooler all the way to one that's graduated college already, and listening to them talk about how school allowed them or didn't allow them to use these tools can be both exciting, but it can also be a little disappointing, right? Because we need people to learn differently today, and we need the new students and the new professionals coming in to start at a different place than we all started. And so they have to learn how to use those tools and still be able to apply their own critical thinking, their own human insights to that. But we want them to have the same ability to accelerate that learning and accelerate their productivity that we're trying to get to in the office. I'm sure that's extremely complicated for those in the education field to make that happen. But I get very, very excited when I start hearing that we are at least trying to navigate that and help students learn differently.
Yeah, Rachel, I have a lot of excitement around this topic as well. And I tell my students all the time, I'm learning from them as much as they're learning from me, especially in this space, because they've even told me just I asked daily use things, and they really have been very helpful in even refining my own use of AI. And so that's something that I really encourage in our students. And I'm really excited about the things they're bringing to the table in that space. I think as we wrap up, I want to know really overall, what do they need to be thinking about right now as far as how to level up their career and their academic experience so that they get the skills that they need so that they can be successful, whether at Koch or elsewhere in a workplace? What kinds of those things should they be doing now to help themselves level up?
I think really making sure that they're looking for every opportunity that they can to build their network, right? If it's connecting with peers, their professors, other professionals. We've had a lot of opportunities to be on campus with these students, and I know other businesses are as well. So embracing those opportunities, building relationships, and learning as much as they can from other people's experiences. It really just helps open doors for them, helps accelerate their growth. So I think really just embracing every opportunity that they can while they're wrapping up their education, or even if they're just starting. What a great time to start building that network, and then you can continue to build it once you move into kind of the professional world.
I think one thing, and Jason, you and I have talked about this before too, is just be a lifelong learner and be curious. Um, Nobody expects everybody to know everything as they come out of school or to know everything in your role, but the ability to dig in and be curious and seek out knowledge and bring others around you that have the knowledge will absolutely set you apart. So I think that passion to be curious and continue to learn and be a lifelong learner is something that we have to keep with us throughout our entire career and our entire life. And I think that will just continue to set us apart. Rachel mentioned something to me yesterday. She said, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're probably in the wrong room. And really what we mean by that is continue to stretch yourself and learn more, and you aren't always the expert. You're not going to know it all. So how do we continue to stretch ourselves in those ways to continue to grow?
I think, Jason, this kind of goes back to your example too of your learning from the students in this AI journey. And I'm not sure a day goes by here at Koch that I don't learn something new, from the small things to the big things. And a lot of times I'm learning those things from people on my team. And we need them all. We need all the perspectives. We need all the various pieces and parts of knowledge. And so, really looking for those people who are curious, to Stacy's point, and constantly looking to learn, regardless of who that's from and what that is. You're just building a broad skill set, broad tool set that you can really take with you into other roles and opportunities in the future.
Okay, I think that is a great way to wrap things up today. Stacy, Rachel, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking with you, and let's do this again sometime soon.
Thanks so much for having us. It's been great to be able to share with you and with the students that will see this, some of the things that we're looking for in both the accounting profession and at Koch.
Yes, absolutely. We appreciate the opportunity, and I look forward to seeing some of you on campus next week. Can we do it?
Where she supports accurate, timely financial, blah.
It's so hard to redo.
I said it better the first time.
So sorry.